Hello, welcome back. Today is a bit of a slightly different location, my kitchen. I'm going to try some avocado dyeing. So I've got a big enamel pot. And I've probably put about 3 litres of water in. I've been saving my avocado skins and pips, and I've just been freezing them. So let's go. This is what they look like straight out of the freezer. I've got a lot of background noise because obviously the kids are here. You're supposed to clean them as much as possible, so there's a bit of flesh left there, which isn't great. And then the rest, even just chunks of skin and things, they are a bit fragile or brittle, but I don't think that's going to do any harm. So I've literally, this is the little scrap bag, I've just shoved them into the freezer every time I had some avocado this past 2-3 weeks. Of the tutorials I read and skimmed, basically you need to add the pips and the skin with as little as possible green flesh, and your water should not be boiling. It should be a slow simmer in order for the color the dye to develop nicely. In the meantime, I've gathered up some standard paper doilies, some lace trim, a crochet doily, some envelopes that, you can call them vintage, but they're just old, they're not looking great. I've also chosen some with some pattern on the inside, some unbleached like calico, and this could be, it looks like sheeting, it's all just offcuts. It could also be a polyester, I don't know, polycotton. Let's see. So I've got a couple of textures. They're all light to see how, and a sheet of handmade paper to see how they handle the dye. We are about 15 minutes in, and this is what it's looking like. I think what I'm going to do is just take a slotted spoon and try and fish out some of the fleshy bits, because it wasn't supposed to be in there in the first place. I don't know if I'm imagining a pinky tone. What I like to do is to layer like a doily in an envelope, because when it dries and when it dyes, somehow you get like a ghost image of the doily on the whatever's underneath it. So this is half an hour. In that light, definitely pink. In that light, also. But I had thought that I'd scraped the flesh out quite well. I didn't. So be extra careful with that. Oopsie. This is 45 minutes. I think I've left it too long. I got distracted. It's more like a ruby, which I think is going to dye brown, but I'm done now. I have now double strained it. I think I'm going to try the materials in the hot dye. I'm not so sure whether it needs to be cold or warm. So let me put that in the flat dish. It's definitely a very different color to coffee dye, but this looks like Rebel's tea maybe. Here's a coffee dye that I did. That's a proper brown. This is much more reddish. I kept some water back because my bowl was full. So I've chucked the skins and the pips back in, and I'm just slow simmering it now on about half the water. Let's see if the color improves. I don't know, another hour overnight, something like that. I've lost track of time, but it's probably like an hour later, maybe 45 minutes. So that means this batch has now been an hour and a half, and the color's a lot better. So obviously this needs to sort of simmer away for a long time, because this first batch is really doing nothing. So I think there's very little dye in it. So I'll have to re-dye this batch with the new batch if it comes out. That looks like a much better color. It's a day later. The batches came out really nicely. It's quite late. It's a bit difficult to see the colors. Even cardstock envelopes got a bit red. The fabric I was a bit underwhelmed with. This envelope was from the first batch, but it still got the ghosting of the doily. Long and the short of it is the avocado skins and pips need to simmer for about 2 hours, and the actual dyeing should be overnight or 12 hours for it to get a really nice dye. A couple of issues I did encounter. I didn't have a sieve fine enough to actually sieve out the little fine bits. So, I mean, they're smooth, but it's obviously some pulp that stays behind. I don't know how that affects the paper. Because you soak the paper for so long, it becomes incredibly fragile once you take it out. So I lost a few doilies. And a positive is there's no smell, because the coffee dye paper has a smell. There's absolutely no smell on this paper. I actually prefer the color of this paper. There's no yellow. It's like a rosy antique pink, which I like much more than the brown of the coffee. And then Rebel's tea for us in South Africa gives a yellowy color. So this is a really nice, warm, neutral color. Good luck with your dyeing, and any more hints and tips, leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching.